What's going on, guys? Art Dude Saz here. You could just call me Saz. I hope everyone is having a great day. Today I want to talk about why guidelines become less important in art, and why as you become more skilled in art and as you become more skilled in thinking outside the box, these guidelines become less important. And this information is very helpful and very true, especially for those who are new to art. So when you first begin to draw guidelines, they become your entire lifeline because you are new and you don't actually know anything. You're still learning. These guidelines are there to be an on-rails experience. They're intended for learning, and like I said earlier, it's to cultivate a learning mindset. These guidelines de-incentivize diversity in art, and beginners, including myself in the beginning, got stuck in the same face syndrome as well as the same body type syndrome, same art style syndrome, same whatever syndrome. Even when artists themselves, such as Andrew Loomis and Andrew Loomis's famous Loomis method, he states that the Loomis circle is not a one size fits all option, and that experimentation and diversity are to be practiced as much as the perfect guidelines. But as a beginner, it's hard to stray away from that starting experience. Loomis even says so in his book, and he has another book called Fun with a Pencil, I believe, or Drawing with a Pencil, where he takes the Loomis method and applies it to different face shapes and different structures of the face from different angles. And just as the book says, as the book's title is, Fun with a Pencil, you have to knowingly and consciously stray away from the perfect ideal that is the Loomis method, or I use the box divided in thirds, and you have to practice people that are quote unquote deviations away from the perfect supermodel form we see on social media, Twitter, Pinterest, whatsoever. The same goes for all types of practices in art. Like I said earlier, it's not just face shapes, it applies to body shapes, it applies to hairstyles, depictions of men and women, the gender roles and how they're typically drawn, the art style, shading, even the general mindset. You don't only need to think outside the box when it comes to your art, you need to think outside the box when it comes to your mindset of art. The whole point of thinking inside the box is to give a nice, comforting, safe space for you to practice your skill slowly while figuring out what you want to achieve or accomplish. Thinking outside the box will give you the best results, you will achieve the best results, but that requires weeks, months, or even years of fine-tuning, goal setting, and easily perceptible goals and achievable goals to achieve success. It's not an overnight success. You can practice this type of mindset by drawing things you're not used to. If you only draw feminine women, draw masculine women. Or you can mix the two. Instead of sleek, bony women or men, draw all different types of bodies: old, young, fat, disproportionate or quote-unquote disproportionate, etc. If you only draw animals, draw humans. If you like hyper-stylized manga and anime, try a crack at realism. Instead of perfect thirds using Loomis's method or boxes, play around with the proportions and make something that is not of the norm. You'll find as you gain more experience and venture out of your safe space, you'll become more comfortable being uncomfortable. Even if you don't see the value in doing these types of arts and studies, the diversity in your skill set will come to fruition down the line. You always want to sharpen your tool set and diversify your tool set when it comes to art. You don't want to become a one-trick pony. You want to get outside your comfort zone, get out of that safe space, and practice everything and anything equally with as much dedication as you do in your regular drawings. How this applies to my art journey. When I first started, I did realistic anatomy and humans. I really neglected my perspective and character design studies. I had a lot of trouble breaking out of drawing the same things over and over again, so I stuck to my own safe space of only doing studies because I was not confident I would tackle these subjects outside my skill level. And I found out that I would the thinking is that I would disgrace the picture or the artist by drawing it so horribly. I tried my hand at various things, like using the airbrush to shade. I decided that it's not great for me, but the experience helped me understand how to shade using that tool, even if I didn't like it, and how other artists use that tool. So dialing back to the previous point, is it's a silly thing to think about, saying that it's a disgrace to the artists themselves if you draw it badly, but that's only if you view it from hindsight. When you're first drawing, you become scared of being perceived as non-skilled and non-perfect when it comes to your art. But with hindsight and with a lot of diversification in your skill set and mindset, you'll come to realize that that type of thinking is simply not very helpful, and it's not very true, and it will just hurt you in the meantime. It'll hurt you in the future. Now going to the current point about the airbrush tool, and it isn't just the airbrush tool, it's other tools as well. Just because you don't like a tool doesn't mean you shouldn't learn how to use it, or you shouldn't throw it away immediately. As you diversify your skill set, and as you understand more of art, and as you pin down what you want to draw and how you want to draw, you'll naturally change your tastes, and maybe you'll come back to that tool. And even if you don't like the tool in the future, you can understand how other people use the tool and how they achieve certain effects, like when you read a manga or you look at a comic book panel, things like that. So moving on, I tried my hand at manga/anime drawings, and it was completely utterly atrocious with the Takahito Harada art style, with drawing, Dragon Ball stuff. But with time, I adapted to how I view it, and now with my experience, a little bit of my experience in anime/manga drawings, I kind of at least semi understand how these drawings are as a whole, the execution behind them, and how they compare to a regular drawing, or the stylization behind these type of drawings, and how it deviates from the realistic sense of art. Just recently, I figured out I want to lean into my hatching, cross hatching, manual shading type of art style with pencil as well as pen and ink. And that came to be because of the Borderlands game series. The inking style / messy cross hatching in the cinematics and the intro and outro, as well as the character art in the art of Borderlands 3, the art of Borderlands 2, the vault and design of Borderlands 2, and just the whole, not necessarily a cell shading, but just how it looks is what interests me in terms of the execution of the drawings as a whole. I tried my hand at the usual anime and manga style, and while that I understand how to do it and I can kind of draw it well, or I can kind of draw it, not draw it well, I guess, or even the Disgaea Takahito Harada art style, it's not really something I want to draw, and it's not something I want to super duper prioritize in the future. But I still took my time to learn and to draw it and see what sticks and what doesn't. I own, like I said earlier, I own almost all the art books for Borderlands, so I just took screenshots from the books and from PDFs on the internet for the art books I did not own, and I just sat down to study everything from the cross hatching to the body shapes, the character designs, and what they choose to prioritize and leave out. Like, for instance, most of the drawings, when it comes to the character designs, their heads are super small, and they're basically just basic shapes, like a thin rectangle or a lopsided rectangle, or they're a triangle. Meanwhile, the most of the emphasis is based on the character shape and the shadow and the gestures and the clothing. The face is not the point of the character design in that particular stage of the drawing. It's how they look, the way the back arches, the way their footing is, the way the clothes flow off, what kind of clothes are they wearing is what I choose, is what they choose to prioritize, versus later in the book where they draw faces and they go into deeper detail And that also applies to the thinking inside the box, because then while they do kind of use the rule of thirds, they change it up in a way where it's not just the same masculine or same feminine face every single time. You can see from the art I posted in the community post and on my Twitter that there has been a rapid shift in my art style, and the progression of how I develop an eye for certain things, simply because I became more skilled in my art, and more importantly, I sharpened my toolkit when it comes to things I deemed quote unquote unimportant or unworthy. And as a result, I've been seeing a lot of leaps in my skill and a lot of leaps in my mental state of my art at a rapid pace. But what's important is you shouldn't see this growth in mindset all at once. Sometimes you might even regress as you choose to focus on different things, which is why I do my monthly studies, and I've recently started to do more personal projects as a result. So basically the TLDR is that guidelines are important in the beginning when you don't entirely know what you should draw or how you should draw, and that you should generally follow these guidelines in the beginning: the Loomis method, the Bridgman when you're a little bit more advanced, the box method, and the beanbag for bodies, and squares in perspective for bodies for the torso and pelvis and things like that. But you shouldn't only do these things. You have to knowingly and consciously stray away from these perfect ideals when you develop a foundation, and you have to diversify your skill set and your tool set to understand what it is you want to do in art and how to achieve what you want to do in art. Like I said earlier, the point of thinking inside the box is to give a nice, comforting, and safe space to practice slowly. But because it is a safe space, it will only serve to weaken your skills in art as you progress further on, and as you refuse to shed this blanket of comfort. Try things out of your skill set. Try things out of your comfort zone. Try a whole different art style. Try a whole new shading art style. Try a whole new character design. Study other artists. Only then will you understand how confined you were in your own box, and how diversifying your skill set, diversifying your mindset will help you achieve bigger and better goals in the future. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. More art talks in the future, more art book overviews in the future, more manga reviews in the future. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you all have a very great day. Thank you.